This video is brought to you by Nebula. Today, Tesla sales plummet across Europe, Donald Trump sanctions the International Criminal Court, and Kosovo prepares for parliamentary elections. We've also got our own announcement in today's episode, so make sure you listen out for that. From TLDR News, this is your daily briefing for Friday the 7th of February 2025. Tesla sales have plunged across Europe, adding pressure on the electric vehicle manufacturer amid a possible consumer backlash against Elon Musk's interventions in European politics. The biggest decline was seen in France, where Tesla sales were down 63% in January compared with the same month last year. In Germany, the site of Tesla's only European manufacturing plant, sales dropped nearly 60%. In Sweden, they fell 44%, in the Netherlands 42%, in Norway 38%, and in the UK nearly 8%. The January data follows an already difficult 2024 for Tesla, whose sales across the EU fell 13% last year, amid increasing competition, government subsidy withdrawals, and a limited and aging model lineup. While the wider electric vehicle market in Germany and France, for example, slowed down last year, demand appears to be recovering. That makes the January data even more concerning for Tesla, as, for example, in Germany, Tesla's near 60% drop massively underperforms the total electric vehicle market in Germany, which actually grew more than 50% year on year, meaning that Tesla's market share in Germany has dwindled from 23% 2 years ago to just 4% today. The company will be hoping that its soon-to-be-released upgrade Model Y will boost sales because of the Osborne effect, which describes a consumer habit of delaying a big expensive purchase before a new, more improved version of the same product is released. However, Tesla is also having to contend with the fact that its owner, Elon Musk's interventions in European politics could be putting off consumers. For example, in an unprecedented move, Musk jumped into German politics ahead of the country's election, scheduled for February the 23rd, and has endorsed the far-right AfD, drawing sharp criticism from the country's mainstream parties and the media. Musk has also attacked the UK's Labour government and expressed support for jailed far-right activist Stephen Yaxley-Lennon, also known as Tommy Robinson. According to YouGov polling, in both Germany and the UK, around 70% of the public have an unfavourable view of Musk and think his attempt to influence their politics is unacceptable. Now, just before we move on, we've got a short announcement about the daily briefing from Ben.
Before we continue, I just want to make a quick announcement about the daily briefing. We've been making this show on and off for a few years now, and despite the support of our loyal viewers and the tireless efforts of the team, unfortunately the show has never quite made sense. Obviously, there's a sizable number of you who come here every day for your rundown of the news, but despite our efforts, numerous tweaks and hours of effort, the audience for the show has never quite been big enough. In fact, our most recent analysis has found that over the last few months, the average daily briefing episode has actually consistently lost money. Jack will make a full video explaining the decision more thoroughly next week, but the long and short of it is that things need to change. As such, February the 14th will be the last edition of the daily briefing in its current form. That's not the end though, because from February the 17th, we'll be back as an audio-only show. That obviously allows us to reduce the workload associated with the daily briefing, as a good chunk of our time is spent producing the video each day. But it also presents exciting opportunities for the show. It means that we're no longer constrained by the YouTube algorithm and the need to make clickable thumbnails, nor are we limited by the timings and timelines associated with YouTube content. As such, we're planning on diving into stories that maybe wouldn't work on YouTube, the things you really ought to know about, even if they might not make for an incredible thumbnail. So in order to prepare you for the change, we'd love it if you headed over to your favourite podcast app and subscribe to TLDR's daily briefing. Every episode we've made is there in audio form already, but from February the 17th, that'll be where we're releasing our new audio-only episodes, dropping on your feed every weekday at 4:30 p.m. UK time. I understand that change isn't always the most fun, and some people will be sad to see this iteration of the daily briefing coming to a close. But we think this is genuinely an exciting opportunity. We're happy that we found a model which should support the daily briefing into the future, continuing to bring you the news every day, rather than just having to kill the show altogether. And we're also excited by the opportunities and experimentation that's now possible with an audio-only show. So make sure you subscribe in your podcast app and join us on February the 17th for a new era of the Daily Briefing.
US President Donald Trump has signed an executive order authorizing economic sanctions against officials from the International Criminal Court, or ICC, which he accuses of, quote, illegitimate and baseless actions targeting the US and Israel. It coincides with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's visit to the White House and follows the ICC's decision to issue arrest warrants for Netanyahu and his Defense Minister Yoav Gallant in November for alleged war crimes and crimes against humanity. In the order, Trump names the ICC a threat to the sovereignty of the US and says the court undermines the critical national security and foreign policy work of the US and Israel, which are neither members of the court nor recognize its authority. In practice, the sanctions consist of travel bans and asset freezes against ICC staff and their family members. While the White House hasn't yet named the individuals sanctioned, the ICC is reportedly preparing for sanctions to target top officials, including Chief Prosecutor Karim Khan. In response, the ICC has condemned the issuance of the order, saying in a statement, the court stands firmly by its personnel and pledges to continue providing justice and hope to millions of innocent victims of atrocities across the world. It concluded, we call on our 125 states parties, civil society, and all nations of the world to stand united for justice and fundamental human rights. Moving to Europe now, Kosovo heads to the polls on Sunday in a parliamentary election that is expected to be a key test for Prime Minister Albin Kurti, after his governing party won in a landslide 4 years ago, marking the first time since independence in 2008 that Kosovo's parliament has completed a full 4-year mandate. Kurti's left-wing Self-Determination Movement party is seen as the front-runner, but it's not expected to win the necessary majority to govern alone, leaving open the possibility of the other two contenders. The main contenders are the Democratic Party of Kosovo, also known as PDK, whose main leaders are accused of war crimes at the Hague Tribunal. Kurti's term has seen a clampdown and the shutdown of Serbian parallel institutions in northern Kosovo. However, the speed at which his government has done so, and his authoritarian approach, has drawn international criticism from some of Kosovo's most important allies. The EU imposed sanctions on Kosovo in 2023, and according to the current Trump administration, the Kurti government is not considered a trusted one. As such, according to some political analysts, while most voters may be pleased that Kosovo has more control over the north, many might not be convinced that this is sustainable without international support, and some Kosovans are concerned about their country's growing isolation. These fears could possibly weigh in Kurti's chances of being re-elected. We recently released a video on TLDR EU that covers the damaged relationship between Kurti's government and the West, so we encourage you to check that out if you're interested. Finally, Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, has ruled out any negotiations with US President Donald Trump's administration, describing possible talks as neither intelligent, wise, or honorable after Trump floated nuclear talks with Tehran. Khamenei cited past experiences, namely the 2015 nuclear deal, which Trump withdrew from in 2018 before imposing the toughest sanctions on Iran to date, and vowed to respond forcefully to any threats. However, Khamenei did stop short of issuing a direct order not to engage with Washington. Khamenei's statement comes days after Trump signed an executive order to return to his first term's maximum pressure sanctions policy on Iran, and a hardline approach to Iran's axis of resistance, but called for Tehran and Washington to come to a verified nuclear agreement. Diplomats in Iran's reformist government of President Masoud Pezeshkian have suggested that Iran could be open to talks aimed at reassuring the world that it's not seeking nuclear weapons. But Khamenei, the country's ultimate decision-maker, doesn't seem to be on the same page as Pezeshkian following his recent statements. What happens now remains unclear, particularly as Pezeshkian campaigned on and promised as recently as Thursday entering into a dialogue with the West. That's not the end of this story though, with 2025 already shaping up to be a rather busy year for news. In fact, there's so much going on that we don't have time to cover it all. Just in America, there's everything from the question of whether Trump's becoming an imperial president to America's wild history of territorial expansion to questioning if the US is actually an oligarchy. All of these things could lead you to say, WTF USA, which is, appropriately, also the name of the series I'm literally telling you about right now. WTF USA takes a tongue-in-cheek look at the weirder side of US politics, unpacking what Trump's really up to and why Trump's kind of weird decisions could end up being incredibly impactful. WTF USA is released every other Friday only on Nebula, the streaming service we co-own with a bunch of your favourite creators. And those creators also make a ton of other exclusive Nebula content, including Real Life Law's series War Room. That's the show where every month the Real Life Law team breaks down all of the ongoing wars and conflicts around the world to keep you up to date and informed on what's happening and why, which, in an increasingly complex world, could prove to be a very helpful summary. It's not just original content either. You can also watch every normal TLDR video on Nebula ad-free, and in some instances before they land on YouTube. If you're not a member already, click on the link in the description to get 40% off, which brings the price down to just $36 a year, or $3 a month. That's a real steal considering all of the original content on the platform, and the fact that signing up using our link directly funds the channel and allows us to make more content going forward. So thanks for your support, and please do join us over on Nebula.